even when I'm down. Got my head in the clouds and my feet on the ground. I got big dreams.
Yeah, we've got big dreams here at the Genius Lab. This is your self-empowerment coach, Toby Christensen, and I'm so happy to be here for our 27th edition of podcasts about my new book, Release Your Shit and Reclaim Your Power. Today, we're going to be talking about resistance, okay? And resistance in maybe a way that you haven't thought of it before, because most of the time when people talk about that, you know, they're in resistance or they're having resistance, it's that they're in the wrong place. It's like, oh man, you know, I'm not getting the vibe, you know, so I'm not participating in it. And so I haven't done any work on the project because it just, you know, I think I'm on the wrong track because I'm just not getting the motivation. Ha! Guess what? When resistance hits, it means you're on the right track. So this podcast is called Resistance Equals the Right Track. Oh my God. Sorry about that. So Stephen Pressfield, he is by far the best teacher on resistance that I have ever heard. He is absolutely amazing. And he always talks about how, you know, how here he's a famous writer, but for so many years he struggled and let resistance have power over him. And, you know, that said, after he began to realize that resistance was the thing to push through, not a thing to submit to, all of a sudden he started making some things happen. He became a mover and a shaker. So I used to think when I got stuck that I was stuck because I was on the wrong track or I was going in the wrong direction. Yet when I started whatever it was I was doing, whether it was a piece of music or whether it was a workshop or a book, I knew when I started I was heading in the right direction, and then I just kind of ran out of gas, right? But then when I started, so I figured, oh shit, I better stop and figure out what the right thing to do is so that I'll be motivated and stay motivated. What Stephen Pressfield talks about is that he makes a really good case for resistance. He says resistance shows up strongest when you're on track to make the biggest impact with your work. Okay, so next time you feel resistance, rather than looking at resistance as an adversary, think of it as a friend. Like, oh, thanks, dude. I know this is really important now. And so when it pushes against you, you know you're on the right track. And, you know, this can be a life-changing lesson. It certainly was for me, because now when I start to get tired, I run out of ideas, I run out of inspiration. I don't feel like doing a podcast. I'm, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, fuck this, man. The reason I'm getting tired is because I'm getting ready to hit. And when I push through the resistance, things really start to flow. It's wild, especially on songwriting. Like, I'm stuck on this song. It's driving me nuts. I get frustrated with it, so I quit. When I get frustrated with it is when I need to stay with it. And then all of a sudden the inspiration comes and things get cooking. So start thinking about resistance in a different way. But pardon me, it doesn't always show up as a in-your-face kind of thing. Like, don't do this, or stop doing this, or your house is on fire, or some crazy thing, right? So let's just look at some ways that resistance shows up so you can kind of be keen on it once it, when it shows up again, okay? So the most obvious way that resistance shows up is like sleeping in because you'll get to it later. That the get to it later is like it's like the easiest one that affects everybody, right? Oh, I'll get to it later. Oh, well, I'm just going to hit the snooze button one more time, or I'm just going to stay up and watch one more TV show, and I know that'll put me back in the morning, but whatever. Anyway, fuck that shit, man. You got to jump on it. You got to take control of it. You got to grab it by the fucking throat and not let resistance tear you down or distract you or detour you from your mission. Okay. remember the three malas that I talked about, the triad of terror. Okay. They show up, and sometimes they show up like all together. Like you start comparing yourself to other people, or let's say you're in the workshop that I'm doing, of release your shit and reclaim your power. All of a sudden you start comparing yourself to other people in the workshop. Or if you're an author, you start comparing yourself to other writers. Or if you're a songwriter, you start comparing yourself to other writers, and you're not good enough, and you're not smart enough, and you didn't have the right education. So how could you possibly blah, 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 blah. Okay. So then you really know that you're on the right track. And then you get hit with well, why bother? I'll never be as good as anyone else. And so I'll just give up. I mean, why should I even bother? And that sucks, man. So just remember, it's not acceptable to give in to resistance, okay? That is just a fucked up direction. It stops you in your tracks. It doesn't let you move forward. It stifles your creativity. And most importantly, it robs you of your greatness, because you cannot be great when you're not doing anything. Actually, you're intrinsically great, but you're not letting yourself shine, okay? So knock that shit off. One of the things that's really tricky about resistance, that's easy to get, that's easy for me anyway. I chase little shiny things that go floating by, right? So one of the, pardon me. Oh, I got to get some coffee here. Thank you. So one of the ways resistance gets me most in a most tricky way is distractions. Okay. Resistance can't hit me square in the eye much anymore, because I know what I'm dealing with, right? Because I've fucked up things so bad in the past, and I've worked so hard to get past this. So I'm sitting at the computer writing my book for the fourth day in a row, and for the last 10 hours I'm thinking, maybe I should go play my guitar for a while. Now that seems pretty simple, right? And some of you are going, "Oh yeah, you deserve a break. You've been typing for 10 hours and creating a book for 10 hours for 3 days at 10 hours a day." And but guess what happened last time I went in and played my guitar? 2 hours later, I came out. I was just going to go play a couple of songs, right? 2 hours later, I come back to the computer. I'm fucking exhausted, and I don't get a damn thing done. So today I'm pushing through. I'm writing what I said I would write. I'm going to hit the end of the chapter that I committed to, and then I'll play my guitar without the penalty of not getting the important work done. Okay? The other thing you've got to decide is, how bad do you want it? Okay? Like, how important is it to you? Is the distraction more important than getting the job done? Okay. Or, sometimes you'll have a friend call and go, "Oh man, I'm really depressed today. I'm really hurting. I need your help so desperately." Now, you've got to look at this. Now, is meeting your friend or meeting your deadline more important? Is there no other person they can call? Are you the only one that can solve the problem? Do you have to take the time to go meet them to solve the problem, or can you do it over the phone? There's a lot of other options to look at. And the thing is, who are you going to put first? Someone else or yourself? So is their mission more important than yours? Or is their drama more important than your mission? You really got to get real with this, and you got to get real with yourself and quit being codependent and giving up your shit for someone else's shit. What's the outcome, and how is it going to be helpful to you, and how is it going to support your mission? That's what you've got to decide. Okay? This is really, really powerful. Part of claiming your power is claiming your value. Resistance, distractions, confusion, lack of motivation. It's all just a scam to keep you from releasing your shit and reclaiming your power. So honor yourself, follow through, respect yourself enough to get your fucking work done. Okay? Claiming your power is claiming your value. So when people call, and you've got some important decision making to do. And the thing about it is, if you're always the one that they go to, they can count on all they got to do is call you and you'll be there. So the issues become less and less critical because they know that you're going to come when they call. So that people will just, and it's not like they're intentionally trying to hurt you. They just need some attention. Well, so does your project. Okay. So the thing to remember that I really want you to just own is that once, if you get nothing out of this podcast except this one thing, right? Claiming your power is claiming your value. Okay, put that in your pipe and smoke it. Put it on your mantra list. Okay, say it 500 times a day. Okay, and it's so important that you own this and that you stick with it. Don't let frustration, don't let fatigue, don't let any of this stuff. I swear to God, the closer you are to victory, the harder things get. And that's how you know you're close. A friend of mine's a mountain climber, and I talked about Mount Everest and how as you get towards the summit, sometimes you take one step a minute. It's like there's so much fatigue that you literally take one step and it takes a minute before you catch your breath, and then you take another step. But the thing is, if you get frustrated and if you get if you mind fuck yourself when you're climbing because you're only doing one step a minute, you're going to completely shortcut yourself. And it only happens right up by the top, almost to the summit. That's the thing that happens. You know, you've heard the term, I'm sure, don't quit 5 seconds before the miracle. Okay? So next time you start getting fatigued, look at what you've set out to do for the day and look at how close you are to your desired outcome. Think about your mission. Next time a friend calls you and like, oh, I'm feeling depressed, I need some help. Ask yourself, before you say, yes, I'll be right over, what do I have to do today to complete my mission before I go and help this friend? Or ask yourself, is it really necessary for me to go help that friend? They can easily find someone else. Okay? So don't let yourself get tricked into stopping because the going gets hard. Okay? Realize it's just resistance trying to fuck with you and keep you from winning the victory. Okay? It doesn't matter how long it takes you. It matters that you persistently push through. Okay? The more times you do this, the less times it will happen. Okay, you got that? It's like when the more practice you get, the less mistakes you make. Okay, I think that's the best way to put it. So while you're thinking about this, look at the situations that come up, check their importance, and then decide. Is this infringing on my value? Is this infringing on my mission? Is this keeping me from accomplishing what I set out to do today? And then decide, is this resistance trying to keep me from a victory? Am I fucking myself over by getting distracted by this thing? You decide. Choose for your power. Choose for your value. And keep looking up.